Alright, so I want to talk a little bit about tactics and why they're important. You can be one of the best sword fighters, stick jocks, wacky bats player, and still lose to someone who has a dagger. You can have the best reflexes, you can have the best cuts, be full armor, but you still lose to a guy with a dagger. Why? Well, he thought more than you did. He spent more time focused on how he needs to approach the fight and different ways to approach it, and maybe less or just as much on how to cut somebody. What was it? In Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings, he talks about why swordsmen aren't called like long swordsmen or shield sworders or whatever. His mindset is they're a tactician. To use something like a sword on a battlefield, if you were trying to do such a thing, you need to know more about tactics and how to approach the fight, more if not as much than, because basically when you're doing that, you need to think more than the other person. With something like this, you have less defense, and honestly, you're going to be fighting more stuff that has more reach than you. Tactics-wise, you need to go about thinking about how to do that in a constructive way that's not going to get you killed every single time doing it. Being killed's no fun. You want to go out there and actually win and get some kills and benefit your team. Well, to do that, you need to think tactics. You need to think about, well, where am I needed? What do I need to do? Where can I find somebody who's going to benefit me? So if I'm on a field and I'm approaching a line and there's spears everywhere, well, all right, I look around. Do I see any other spots in the line that could use me that don't have a spear? Well, in some cases, yes. Well, that's a form of tactics. You have a tactic that you're going to try to implement to help win that fight. That means thinking about a scenario before you ever even come to the battle. You can do this in your Pell work. The idea of what you're trying to do is practiced out before you even ever step foot on the field. So, grabbing a spear fighter or grabbing a sword and border to work with you at practice, and how you'll fight against the line. You two walk up to a line of people. Where are you going to be needed? What tactics are you going to employ to help benefit and win? These are all things that you can, practice doing before you ever even get to the fight. Places like quarantine, like after you do Pell work and you're tired, you can still research. Like Sun Tzu, tacticians, all of these people, like all these philosophers, warrior poets, people who spend a lot of time in war, theorizing about war, or losing in war, all spend a bunch of time looking about how to win. Obviously, this isn't as important. We spend less time in any real combat. We don't do any real combat. Like, this is all play for us. Well, we still want to win. It's fun. It's a game. It's a sport. I mean, if you look at tactics for football, there are plays, there are games, there are things you do to try to win. Obviously, tactics change. You can go from one-man tactic, two-man tactic, to 50-man tactics. But for DAG, really you want to focus on tactics for you, tactics for maybe a small team, and how to influence an overall field. If you're fighting and you know tactics, you can win and do things with a dagger. You can threaten that sword and border. You threaten the spear fighter. He doesn't know how good you are with a dagger. He doesn't know what you're going to do with that dagger. You might run up and just grab his sword arm and hold it for your buddy and pretend to shank him while your buddy comes and kills him. That's a tactic. These are all things you can use, but it's up to you and your imagination. Or you look at historical figures. I like Miyamoto Musashi. What's another one? Can't think of any more off the top of my head, but that was a good one for me. One of the things Miyamoto talked about was learning to fight with two weapons against multiple opponents. That to me was not something, it's something you think about, but you don't really look at it from that perspective until he explains what he means and what his mindset behind it. Doesn't mean you need to copy it completely, but you can take it, you can use it, it can be in your toolbox of things to be able to do. Reading historical figures is important for expanding that imagination of tactics, because you might have your own tactic and you've used it and it works great. But then maybe that historical figure has used that same tactic but has improved upon it and you never would have known about it. Just any sort of historical reading is going to help you in that. Battlefield, historical accounts of battlefields, these things are all going to help you with your tactics. You can go up and fight a group of people with a dagger, and if you have a team, you can have a usefulness there somewhere, even if it's just running around pretending to threaten people so that their focus is less on your group, your guys in your group. That is part of a fight. If this is what you have and what you're going to use, there's a tactic there in some way that's going to make this effective. Now, am I going to walk up to a sword border one-on-one and kill him? Probably not. But if I'm armed on a field and it's a skirmish and I got a dagger, well, maybe there's something you can do there to help you win. And heck, this is a sport. Even if you don't win, you're going to learn something. Maybe you go to stab that guy and he hits you. Obviously, that was probably going to happen. Well, next time, maybe you just don't move so close. Maybe you just threaten him just enough, or you threatened him too much and that's why he got stabbed. Practicing tactics is going to get you just as far, I think, if not farther, than learning how to be a good stick jock. There are plenty of tactics out there. Anything goes. You just look it up, practice it, take it to practice, and see if it works for you. I just wanted to talk about that because I think it's something that people don't focus on enough. You can be a good fighter without actually having to practice those techniques if you're good on strategy and tactics.